guys would all be so kind as to take your seats. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present, emerging, and any here today. First of all, let me say I am so proud of you all for being here today, because that means that you've taken the first step of such an amazing and life-changing experience. Just by coming here, it means so much. So thank you all for being here on this very balmy Australian night. I hope you've already enjoyed a free beer from our friends at Urban Alley, or a tea, coffee, water, and you've indulged in some snacks that we have there for you. Just to introduce myself, my name is Taylor and I am the Event Fundraising Coordinator for Oxfam Trailwalker Melbourne, and I apologise in advance for how many emails I'm going to be sending you, but I absolutely love my job and I love Trailwalker and I just get a little bit excited. So apologies in advance for my emails. So we're here tonight to talk to you about the wonderful world of Trailwalker, and this is the session overview of the night. So I'll be giving you guys a brief introduction, then we will have Christoph, who is our operations manager, who will chat through the trail and the checkpoint details for you. We'll also have our very own Oxfam Trailwalker ambassador, Jeff Constable, come up and chat about his Trailwalker experience. I will then chat you through fundraising, and then we'll have Rachel from the programs team who will talk about where the money and donations go. We'll also have the last half of the evening to go through any questions that you guys will text in, and you can text in all of your questions through the number on the bottom screen. We will have that on all of the slides, so don't worry if you miss that out now. We're going to go through the questions with a Q&A panel. And on the panel, we'll actually have a professional physiotherapist from Back in Motion, Tom give away. So yeah, please send through any and all of your questions, including how do I tape my feet, how do I look after my feet. I'm very worried about my feet walking 100 kilometres. So yeah, feel free to text all of your stupid questions through there. Brilliant. So what is Trailwalker? It is the most rewarding and life-changing experience that you will do. It's where yourself and 3 other mates will take on 100 kilometres to tackle poverty. And you'll do this within 48 hours. Now, it does seem like a lot, but the average team completion hourly rate, I guess, is 35. We have some crazy people that will run and do it in 10 or 11, and then you'll have teams, probably like myself, that will finish it in exactly 48 hours. The great thing about tonight is that we're going to chat through any of and all of your worries, questions, and any suggestions that you guys may have. We're going to go through it all in the presentation, and then we'll also be available for you guys to come and chat to us afterwards. Brilliant. So tonight we've got a really special competition for any of the teams that have registered or will register tonight. So if you raise $101 by next Tuesday, you can go into the draw to win a $400 Paddy Palin voucher for you and your team. So Paddy Palin are actually here tonight, and they are absolute whizzes at Trailwalker. They probably know more than I do, and they'll be able to fit you for backpacks, shoes, and pretty much suggest any suitable activewear for your training and on event day as well. Also, if you're not too sure about registering tonight, but you are interested and you do want to save a spot, you can pop down $50 as a deposit, because we do sell out quite quickly. We're already at 420 registered teams, and we do cap it at 800. So definitely would recommend getting in tonight if you can. And you can register with David and Marley giveaway. Lovely. And you'll also get free keep cups for you and the team if you do register tonight. So definitely go and say hi to David and Marley. So this is the 101 night competition that we do have running. You will automatically go into the draw to win if you do raise $101, and you'll get contacted by myself if you have won. So just to put it in a little bit of context, $101 can actually go a really long way. So what it can do is buy a clean water tap for a family in PNG so that they can collect water, wash their dishes, wash their clothes, wash themselves and keep them sanitised through a time of a natural disaster or crisis. So really it's a win-win, and I guess being part of Trailwalker means you're being part of something amazing. We've been running since 1999, and in that time we've raised over $100,000. Not $100,000, $100 million is more suitable. I was wondering why no one picked up on that earlier. So just to go on how amazing Trailwalker is, I'm going to introduce Christoph, who will chat through the event details. So welcome, Christoph.
Okay, thank you for coming along today to the Oxfam Trailwalker 101 night for Melbourne next year. And as Taylor mentioned, I'm the operations manager, and I'd like to sort of give you an overview of the trail and also sort of talk you through some things what you can expect along the route and how it looks like and what the challenges are and so forth. But before I do that, I would like to say congratulations to those who have decided to sign up already for the event. It's not just a physical challenge, it's also a fundraising challenge, but it's for a good cause, and thank you very much for that. And for those who are unsure whether they should sign up or not, we hope that tonight is a good moment where we can sort of tempt you to make that step. So a brief overview of the trail. So here you have the trail overview, where I'd like to start and begin with Endeavour Hills. That's where we are going to meet on Friday the 27th of March to start tackling 100 kilometres. So at the start already, you'll if you're in the earlier start waves, you'll probably see a little bit of wildlife and kangaroos already, also in the early hours, which is great. You see a lot of wildlife along the trail in general. And if you start in Endeavour Hills, then your first section of the trail leads you into Listerfield Lake, where we have a checkpoint at the Listerfield Information Centre and the car park there. And then we walk through open bushland and towards the Dandenong Ranges. So we have a checkpoint just at the bottom of the Dandenong Ranges, at the bottom of the 1,000 steps. We're not going to walk along and up the 1,000 steps, but we walk around it on the Lyrebird track, which is also uphill and equally challenging. And that'll warm up your muscles nicely if they haven't done, if they're not warm yet. Anyway, so you walk up the hill. At the top we have another rest, another checkpoint, and that's Olinda. And then from Olinda onwards, it's downhill into Mount Evelyn, where we stop at the Oasis Camp. And Oasis Camp is the first camping checkpoint where we allow a support crew to pitch a little tent where people, if they wanted to, have a little bit of a snooze and a rest before they continue with the walk. The second camping checkpoint is checkpoint 5, which is just next to Lilydale Lake at the Box Hill Institute at the Lilydale Conference Centre. And as I said, like checkpoint 4 and 5 are the 2 camping checkpoints. And by the time on the Friday it gets dark and the night, you'll probably be well over the hill, over the Dandenong Ranges, and walk towards Lilydale. And then potentially also, if you continue into checkpoint 6, into the more suburban section of the trail, in Croydon we have a checkpoint at the Victorian Chin Baptist Church, and then we continue until we hit the Mellimelon Creek Trail and head up north, and eventually you end up at checkpoint 7, the Mellimelon Creek Trail, the Mellimelon Reserve, sorry. And then you hit the main Yarra Trail and you walk along the main Yarra Trail until you end up at the finish in Heidelberg. You can see in the second half of the trail we've got also 2 rest stop locations where we don't allow support crew to access, but we will provide support for you. So hopefully that makes your journey to the finish a little bit easier towards the end. And I also should mention that checkpoint 2 is the only checkpoint where support crew can't meet you. Otherwise, they can meet you at every other checkpoint and provide you with clothing, food, dry socks, good vibes, cheers. Here are a few impressions how the first section of the trail would look like. So open bushland, and as you can imagine there, chances are you can see a kangaroo or other wildlife, and then Listerfield Park, you walk pretty much around the lake before you head up north to the Dandenongs. Looking at the trail profile, you're not just walking 100 k's, you also walk up and down. The biggest challenge is obviously the Dandenong Ranges, which I mentioned a few times now. But the good thing is it's done in the first half of the trail, and from then onwards it's going downhill or flat, which has its own challenges, but generally that's sort of perceived as a bit easier. And 1,000 steps, Libo track, section 3, and temperate rainforest in the Dandenongs, beautiful. And then towards the end we have the Mellimelon Creek Trail and the main Yarra Trail. So at checkpoints you can meet your support crews, they can help you out. It's obviously essential for you guys to have a support crew, and it's also very helpful to use them. What else happens at the checkpoint? We track your progress throughout the event. You need to check in and check out so that we know where you are. But then also we provide first aid, water, toilets, basic foods. There might be food vendors there. We also have, which we still need to decide exactly where. We need to strategically locate them at a checkpoint. The Allied Health Team, which is podiatry, physio, massage, maybe osteo as well. So that's still, we need to decide where we put that. But this is something you can also find at some of the checkpoints as well. And that's pretty much my part. And as I said, it's a very broad overview of the trail and the details. The only thing I probably forgot to mention is also what you can find along the trail, not just at the checkpoints. Obviously you have your map book where you can navigate along the trail, but we also have directional signage, other signage, trail marshals, volunteers who can cheer you on and point you into the right direction, so you're not on your own along the trail. Anything else? If you have any questions, you can text through to the number which is on the slides, and I'm happy to answer all your questions. And now I'd like to announce Jeff, our ambassador, who can talk about his experience on Trailwalker.
Next year will be my 4th consecutive trail walker. This was a photo, and you'll all get a photo taken on the day before you head off like this. Well, hopefully not exactly like that, because that means I'm in it. But that was the 2nd year of us walking. So it's a fan. You see lots of smiles. If you look at the photos at the end, there's lots of smiles too, because everyone's really happy about finishing. For me, for you, the best thing I can suggest is preparation. And that means training, that means get understanding your body, so not just out there walking, see what the walk is actually doing to your body. Read your feet, are there hot spots? Are there pain? Are my shoes the right size? Are my socks slopping around all over the place? You need to find those, because those things will dictate whether you have a nice walk or whether you could get a blister or something like that. So you need to do a lot of prep. My teams, I'm walking probably with about 3 or 4 teams. We walk as a little bit of a pod next year at least. So after tonight, I think I've got more teams coming in from people who were here before. We'll start training in 3 weeks. We will walk every Sunday up until the event. We only train on the trail, and I suggest you do that too. If you want to walk in any other spot, make sure it's in similar sort of conditions. Doing 6 laps around Albert Park Lake, which is about 25 k's I guess, or more, is nowhere near the same as doing from Furniture Gully to Olinda, that 10k. Absolutely not. You will get tested. For the Olinda, for that section, we do walk along the 1,000 steps, like Chris said. A Lyrebird Trail, my team renamed Lyrebird Trail to 100 stops. Because that's how I do it. So you'll see a lot of you'll climb and there's a cross gully, and I think there's about 25 of them, and I think I stop at every one of them. So, but only for about 30 seconds. It's a way of me grinding out that 1.5k climb. And I suggest that to you. It's not a race. You don't have to complete the thing without stopping at set checkpoints. The more familiar you become with the trail is very important. I will walk those 2 difficult sections, or challenging sections I'd like to call them, probably 5 or 6 times during training. We know all the sections really, really well, and I suggest you do. A lot of people think the front end's the hard part. I think the back 50 is the hard part. That's at night time, it's on flat, you'll be tired, it's a bit boring, and you'll be looking for a climb. So, and the mind starts to take over. So it's all about mind games. And you need to know where you are at 2 o'clock in the morning. How far do I have to go to the next checkpoint? Is it 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? Start psyching yourself up a little bit for that. So be prepared. Very important you find out what your feet are feeling. Walk more than 25 k's. Walking 20 or 25 k's just only that distance in training is not good enough. You have to push further. After that, your feet start to soften up a little bit, and if you're prone to getting blisters, that's when you'll find your hot spots. You won't find them until then. So a lot of people think I can walk 20k and I don't get a blister, and that's fine, I'll never get one. That's not completely true. So find where those hot spots are and work out the best way to protect them, and protect them before you start the walk on the 100k and for every other training. I tape my feet the night before, covered in tape, totally prevented. I wear toe socks because they protect the pads of my toe. I've only ever had 2 blisters in 3 walks, and they were really, really small. I've walked with 32 people in the last 3 years. 30 of those were newbies, and they've all finished. So we get through every time. For food wise, don't eat somebody else's favourite food if you've never eaten it before. So teams tend to, if you've got a curry or a chili person in your team, knock it out. Unless you are 100% into it. I find softer foods, I'm a heavy breather. So in a really hot day, I get a sore throat. I've got Parkinson's disease as well too, so it's more challenging for me, and I have to do a lot of more prep than normal people to actually get through that walk. So I find my throat gets really sore, so I eat lots of soft food, lasagnas, pasta. I hang out from midnight. My driver from the next to the next checkpoint is about 1:30, 2 o'clock, is pumpkin soup. So when I'm really fighting to stay awake, I'm hanging for that nice warm pumpkin soup. Muffins, really soft food, that's all and clean food, not heavy food. That's all I can suggest. You'll work it out. Look for your favourites. You'll get cravings. Never realise that, and it's weird. You'll get cravings, and they vary all the time. Message your crew. Go to a 7-Eleven, buy me chocolate. Buy me a hot chocolate, buy me this, buy me oranges. Whatever the thing is, just get it, and it'll help you through. You pack on the day, on the day particularly, but do it during training too. I change my socks every checkpoint. Do it. Put 8 pairs, 9 pairs of socks in your 50-litre plastic container that your crew will carry for you. I change my underwear every checkpoint, every second checkpoint. Be prepared to ditch clothes as they get sweaty. Training, wear your backpack. Load it with goodies, load it with your bottles. I carry 3 bottles of water, 2 in the backpack, 1 in the hand. The hand stops the fingers from swelling because you're drinking. The other thing is, it's in the hand, you're going to drink. It's in the backpack, you're going to leave it. I drink about 20 to 25 litres of water during the walk, and I drink about 10 litres of tea. 40 mugs of tea I drank last year, so I'll heat, and you need to keep that, and I don't go to the toilet a lot. One thing I've told the other groups, very, very important, you'll love me, if you ever get it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Look for prevention, chafing. So you can get chafing on your shoulders, make sure and that's another reason for the backpack, make sure you're wearing it, make sure you're wearing it right, you're going to get chafing on your shoulders. The other part that's really horrible and you don't expect to get it is bottom in the cleavage. So the builder's cleavage, wax some baby cream or Silic 15 I use for cycling, so I love that stuff, so I use that. Yeah, try and prevent, and it's all, to me, it's all about learning about your body in training. So do lots of training. The last 2 weeks of training, I'll do at my teams, 2 weeks before the event, we'll do 50k walk. 2 weeks prior to that, we'll do the other 50k. Along the way, we will start with 10k and we'll stretch it out. And just find out what works for you at any time. Kit, yeah, make sure you've got lots of stuff in there. Overload the damn 50 litre, stand on it if you have to and just jam it. You don't have to carry it, so it's all right. So, but yeah, and good luck. I'll be out on the trail every Sunday from 3 weeks' time. I usually wear this. Find me, talk to me. I've got a lot more stuff I can tell you. Find me after this and I'll happily answer any questions. Contact Taylor if you want to come walk with me. I generally find teams that walk with me end up walking with me on the day as well too. So I'm looking, next year's my legend year, so I'm looking for a mosh pit of teams. I want about 25 teams walking with me, so please come again and do it again next year. But ask any questions, love to tell you, love to help you. Good luck. If any fears about walking, I walk with a guy who's cerebral palsy. He's done multiple 100Ks. I walked with a guy in the worst conditions a couple of years ago, weather-wise. He was 84 and he finished. So don't tell me you can't do it. Come and see me, I'll tell you how you can do it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, you are living, breathing proof that trail walker definitely does become addictive. You'll cross the finish line and swear you'll never ever do it again, but believe me, registrations will roll around and you'll remember all the great things about trail walker and you'll come back and we'll welcome you with open arms. So we are going into my area of expertise. So fundraising. Trailwalker is essentially a fundraising event and our target for 2020 is $2.5 million. It does sound like a lot, but for this year, 2019, all of the teams collectively raised $2,558,132. So I have every single faith that we'll absolutely smash this next year, and I wish you all the best of luck with your fundraising. It does go a really, really long way, and the expectations for 2020 are $400 per person, which really isn't that much when you do break it down. That's $1,600 per team, and the best thing to do with your fundraising is just go out and ask. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues, and you'll be surprised how many people get behind you because they'll think you're crazy for doing 100 kilometres. They probably can't do it themselves, so they will get behind you, back you, and support you. So you don't even really have to ask big as well, because something as small as a $50 donation can actually provide for families in Fiji with a hygiene kit to help them stay sanitized and provide clean water to them during a time of crisis or natural disaster. So my main, push for you guys to do is just go out and ask. Tell everyone what you're doing. Tell everyone how amazing you are, and tell everyone how proud you are for taking part. We do have a few fundraising competitions that we run in the lead up to the event, and we do have 2 on at the moment. So the special one we have on for 101 night is if you raise $101 by next Tuesday, you do go in the draw to win a $400 Paddy Palin voucher for you and your teammates. And this is going to come in so handy when you do need those shoes, those backpacks, and we do have Oxfam Trailwalker Paddy Palin t-shirts. So it's going to come in really handy, and I would definitely recommend going and having a chat to them after the session to pick out some t-shirts that you guys can grab and wear on your training and on event weekend. We also have the start time competition. Now, already we have about 420 teams registered. That's teams of 4, and we do cap the event at 800 teams. So obviously we can't have you all starting at the same time because it would be a stampede. So we do have start times spread out, and for 2020 we have 6 a.m, 7 a.m, 8 a.m, 9 a.m, and if those are all at capacity, we will include a 10 a.m. start wave. And we run a fundraising competition so that if you raise $3,500, you can actually choose your own team's start time. If you don't raise that much, you will get your start time allocated at random. So it can either be any time between 7, 9, and possibly a 10 a.m. start wave. So some really great incentives for you guys to kickstart your fundraising, and also some other great incentives that you guys do get if you identify as a workplace or VIP team. So what does this mean? It means that you have a fundraising target of $10,000 or above, or you have 4 or more teams out of the one workplace. So if that's you, that means that you and your teammates get a free VIP silver buff. I'm just modelling it at the moment, but they do come in really handy through your training and on event weekend. You can wear them on your neck as a wristband, really good for sweat and braving the elements. There are a few other incentives that you guys get as well, and you also get me to support you through the whole experience. We do have some really great superstars that have already increased their target to 10K and above, and these guys are all aiming super, super high, so give them a round of applause. So if you are thinking about getting a workplace team together, or you'd just like me to come along and chat at your workplace to try and nudge your colleagues to join you, or you just want to inspire your teammates that are already with you, please let me know. I love to come along and host presentations to get people excited about Trailwalker. I love my job, I love Trailwalker, and it's my favourite thing to talk about it. So definitely come and find me afterwards, or contact me on that email. I would love to come out and chat. So as well as myself, we do have other really helpful resources available to you on our website. So the fundraising guide and the training and preparation guide will become your Bibles. We have the event map book that is part of your welcome pack. So if you've registered a team, you would have picked up your welcome pack at the start, and that has your map book in there. That's really great to bring with you on training walks and on event weekend as well. And lastly, we have our support crew guide. So your support crews are your friends, family, colleagues that are going to meet you at the checkpoints, keep you sane, keep you hydrated, maybe give you massages or cook you some gourmet food if you're lucky. So definitely share that resource with them. Another great resource that we have available to you as walkers is the Active State guided training walks. So we have an experienced and first aid wilderness trained guide, Michael McFarlane, give a wave. So he's from Active State, and he's offering a special competition tonight that if you register a guided training walk with him, you'll get free Active State beanies for you and your team. You'll also get a $10 donation donated back to your team space. So it's a really great idea to kickstart your fundraising if you haven't already. All right, so if long distance walking really isn't your thing, you're not sure about getting a team together, but you still want to get an insight into Trailwalker, I would definitely recommend volunteering. It's a great way to see how it all works, and it's also a fun way to get involved and not walk 100 kilometres. There are different ways that you can get involved, so you can either volunteer at a checkpoint or along the trail, and there's options for you to brand the checkpoint as well if you are corporate. And we do have Amber Lee at the front here to give a wave, so if you are thinking about volunteering, definitely come and have a chat to her or pop over to the info desk and we can point you out to her. So just to give you an idea, our volunteers pretty much run the entire event. So for 2019, we had just under 3,000 volunteers take part in all of the Trailwalker events. And we are so extremely grateful that they participated and helped out, because we wouldn't be able to put on the event without them. And no matter how large or small your volunteer shift is, it's really important to remember that you are contributing and you are making such a big difference to an event that's raising millions to tackle poverty. So on that note, I will pass on to Rachel, who will chat a little bit more about where the money goes. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel O'Mara. I work with Oxfam Australia in the programs team as a portfolio manager on PNG and Timor. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a rundown on our program work and give you some some inspiration about to show you some of the work that we do and the money that is fundraised through Trailwalker is contributing towards that. This is a bit of a summary of our global mission. So I suppose you would know that Oxfam is working with partners to address poverty and injustice around the world. We work with communities to identify solutions to create sustained solutions to address the underlying root causes of poverty and social injustice. And our values are around accountability, particularly around bringing accountability to governments. So governments are accountable to their citizens and working with communities to bring their voice up to decision makers. Empowerment, particularly around vulnerable groups, so including women's empowerment, people with disabilities, marginalised and vulnerable groups as well. Equality, inclusiveness and sustainability. So the work that we do is around looking at long-term solutions to address poverty. So it's not necessarily welfare, but working with partners to look at sustainable changes that can be continued after Oxfam finishes the work with the partners there. The three ways that we work around long-term development, humanitarian response and campaigning for change. So long-term development programs work with communities to address long-term issues around climate change issues, water supply and sanitation, food security and livelihood issues. Wide range of long-term development challenges, including gender equality, social inclusion, wide range of social issues in developing countries. Emergency responses around working with partners to provide humanitarian response and life-saving support in terms of when there's crisis. So if there's with the refugee crisis, supporting Rohingya on the Bangladesh side of the border with refugees in the Middle East, with also natural disasters, so with cyclones, flooding, earthquakes and things like that. So Oxfam and partners work to provide life-saving support and also recovery and transition after those disasters. The third element of Oxfam's work is around campaigning for change. So that's kind of advocacy, influencing, to advocate to governments on policy changes. So you can see that in the domestic Australian market. So there's media and advocacy and campaigning team to address issues around labour rights, fair wages, climate change adaptation, and a wide range of other social issues, as well as in the countries that we work with partners to influence national governments around policy change, the way that their budgets are managed, how they're spending their budgets to support the most vulnerable in those communities. So work on Timor and PNG, so I'll just talk a little bit about the work there. So in Timor, there's huge issues around malnutrition, and in the global hunger index that came out the other day, Timor is 110 out of 117 countries, 117 being the most food insecure, around the world. So there's huge issues around malnutrition. Oxfam and partners work to address these large issues to support farmers with their agricultural production, their techniques, they're increasing the diversity of crops that are grown, also the volume of crops, working as cooperatives to connect farmers to markets so they're able to sell their produce and to sell in other locations, and also to adapt to the impacts of climate change in those locations, supporting farmers with irrigation and other support mechanisms in Timor. So this is a photo of a family that is growing rice there. Another program that we have in Timor is to support communities to have a voice in decision making at the local and also at the national levels. So particularly around developments that have an impact on their local communities. So this was it doesn't really show here, but this is a kind of a huge highway that cut through the centre of the community without the consultation of those members. So Oxfam and local partners have come together and brought the government to the community to talk about how to address those kind of development challenges. In PNG, we have a program on ending violence against women and girls. There's a three-pronged approach. One is to work with local civil society organisations that provide the crisis management and the crisis support to survivors of violence. They provide case management support. They refer clients to the police, hospital and other service providers to support them in those cases. And they work with other stakeholders to support survivors after the event. So there's also safe houses and things like that. So Oxfam supports the capacity building or the strengthening of those organisations that provide that frontline service in very remote areas around PNG, including in the Highlands, which has huge rates of gender-based violence. Yes, that's the thing. The other two areas of the program are also around prevention. So Oxfam and local partners work with young people to raise awareness around, to say, enough is enough, violence is not acceptable in our society. They work with partners to do awareness raising in communities through drama and role play, media, but they also have a deeper engagement to discuss kind of the root causes of violence and to kind of tackle the gender and social norms in which those things are occurring. So it's trying to address the root cause of the systemic violence that's happening in PNG at the moment. The third element is to look at institutional and structural change. So it's influencing the government to make sure that they're allocating enough resources in the national budget to support these local civil society organisations so they have a future beyond Oxfam to continue to providing that life-saving support to survivors of violence and to do that prevention work. So it's looking at the structural, legal and other frameworks, the policy frameworks to address these issues. Another program we have in PNG is a water supply, sanitation and hygiene program. So that's about providing water tanks, toilets and hygiene promotion to communities around PNG. Many communities don't have basic facilities. Traditionally, it would be the role of the young girls or women who would walk long distances to collect water from the river, which would be not necessarily that close by. So you'd be walking an hour or more, few hours each day. Like in the morning you would go early morning, and then in the evening you would go back again to collect water to bring back for the household use, which is a huge waste of time. And these young people should be in school and getting educated and doing so many other different things. So just having a water tank is hugely transformative for these families, and also with toilets as well. So it prevents spread of disease and all the rest of it. So Oxfam works with the local government to install these water systems. In communities, at the moment we have a project that's in the Highlands that's working installing toilets and water systems in the health facilities, so the local clinics, and also in the primary schools. So so Oxfam in PNG has a big wash program that is, and when you meet people, particularly women, they're just so grateful. It's hugely transformative, and it's good stuff. And that's it. So just like to say thanks very much. And we do receive funding from the Australian government, but it's not necessarily enough to meet the needs of communities around the world. So this fundraising effort that you're doing through Trailwalker is making, it actually makes a huge difference in people's lives. So thanks very much.
Lovely, thank you so much, Rachel. So hopefully that instilled some hope and got you inspired to either register a team or kickstart your fundraising. Just want to cover some key events that we do have coming up before we move into the Q&A panel. So we have our 2 Paddy Palin info nights that are locked in, and these are free to all of the walkers. So they're really informative and crucial to go to if this is your first time, or you do need to learn a little bit more about how to tape your feet, how to prevent injuries and how to prevent blisters. So the first one we have coming up is on the 20th of November at 6 p.m, and that's at the Paddy Palin store on Burke Street. And we have a podiatrist coming in to cover podiatry. And the next one that we have coming up is on the 27th, and that's covering injury prevention. And Tom, our lovely physio from Back in Motion, will be hosting that and chatting to you guys about injury prevention at Paddy Palin. So I would highly recommend coming along to these. They're free and they're super informative, and they'll definitely get you prepared for your training and for Trailwalker. So before we move on, just want to say a massive thank you to our partners. We wouldn't be able to put on these events or put on Trailwalker without them. So massive, massive thank you to these guys. Alrighty, so we'll move on to our Q&A panel. So all of the questions that you have texted in, we're going to cover now. If we don't cover them all, don't stress. We will be posting the answers tomorrow on our website. So please, I would like to welcome the panel to the stage. Thank you. Alrighty, so just to chat through our panel, we have the lovely Maddie. She walked this year, she completed it, and she is an Oxfam staff member. She will most likely be responding to your emails as well as I, so be kind in your emails back to us. We have Tom, who is a professional physiotherapist from Back in Motion. He'll be speaking to you on one of the Paddy Palin nights, and he's here to answer all your questions tonight as well. We have Christoph, who is our operations manager, who will answer all of your questions relating to the trail. We have the lovely Anna, who is our fundraising manager, and she will cover all of the questions regarding fundraising. Lastly, we have the wonderful Jeff, who is our Oxfam Trailwalker ambassador, and he'll cover any of the questions regarding anything that you may come into contact with on the trail in terms of your own experiences and how to combat those. Alrighty, so the first question, when should I see a podiatrist, before or after the event? And will there be people to tape feet at the stops?
I think that I'm best qualified to answer that. So here's the thing with feet. The number one reason that people pull out of the event is due to their feet. So the best advice that I can give is, if you don't have a podiatrist already, maybe get some advice from some information, YouTube. The information that Jeff was talking about is Anna Beetham in taping your feet. It's a really useful YouTube clip on information about taping. The one thing that I can give you advice on is, as Jeff said, you might not get blisters at 20 kilometres. If you keep on doing 20 kilometres, then my feet are fine, but it might be that that's the one thing that pulls you out at 91 Ks, and that's devastating for people because they've got gas in the tank and they're feeling fit and vibrant at 91 Ks, but their feet can't manage it because of blisters. So look after your feet.
Sorry. Just on the other part of the question was, will there be someone to tape at the checkpoints? Yes, definitely there is. And the other thing too, just to reinforce that, if you have any pain in your feet when you're out there walking, and it's just definitely go and see a podiatrist. It generally can be really easily fixed. I had that, and it was just purely with a bit of extra tape around my middle toe for some unknown reason. So it does cure a lot.
And the other thing that I should say as well is that podiatrist isn't just about blister management, it's about good biomechanics of your feet as well. So if you've got, foot biomechanics is incredibly important because it can affect your feet, your ankles, your knees, your hips as well. So it's one thing, and if I can talk about injury prevention, biomechanics is something that you can absolutely prevent, which is where it might be some strength and stability, or it's with some support with the use of orthotics if that's appropriate. So if you've got knees, hips, ankle pain, shin pain, as you're building up your load in terms of your load in the amount of walking that you're doing, and hopefully you're going to do a 50k walk at least, if you're getting some sort of pain at that level, it's definitely going to exacerbate by 91 Ks, so it's best to sort of do something about it earlier rather than later.
Just quickly on the support that Oxfam provides at the checkpoints. So we do have volunteer podiatrists, physiotherapists and massage therapists on the trail, as Jeff said. But because they are volunteers, we can't guarantee that they'll actually be there and be able to help you at the time that you really need them to. So it's just best to be prepared yourself and your team as well, and have one person that knows how to take feet.
Alrighty, question number 2. When will the trail be marked for the event? Chris?
That happens before the event. When exactly I'm not going to disclose. No, it's got to be on a Thursday, the day before. We've got volunteer teams going out on the trail, marking it, putting up signage, and then towards the end we also double check that they're still there.
Sorry. So that means definitely take the map with you, because you will get lost without it. So if failing that, download it onto your phone or use it on there, because it can be quite confusing out there. A year or so ago they changed all the street names, so it sort of proposed a little bit of a difficulty for a little while, but yeah, definitely carry the map.
Question number 3. Where can you buy turf socks? Hand that back to Jeff.
Paddy Pallon have them.
Better run there.
For me, I wear a merino wool toe sock. I'm not sure, I think Paddy Pallon might have started having them. Definitely go online. There's a place in Mount Beauty that sells them, and they buy online. But definitely give them a try. Amongst other things, it might work for you, it might not, but find out what works and go for it.
Lovely. Thank you. Question number 4. How cold does it get during the night portion of the walk?
You're in luck, because with going towards Melbourne now, it doesn't get as cold as it was when we went to Warburton. So it used to be really, really cold, and you'd be wearing jumpers and beanies and gloves and all sorts of things. Now, because we're heading through, unless it rains, you should be okay. Fine, I usually wear shorts at that stage and it's not too bad, but that's more weather conditioned than anything else. And just guess it on the day, just go pre-armed with everything in that little 50-litre tub.
So I have to add to this that, for example, in the day long ranges where people may walk overnight or when it gets dark, it could easily go down below 10 degrees, and if that's combined with a light drizzle overnight, then you need to be prepared for that.
And all I'll say, as on top of that, is that often happens after a day where it's sunny and hot. So you're hot and you're feeling like you can keep going, and often the temperature drops really quickly in between checkpoints. And that's where people often get caught out, is because it's hot and it's getting on dusk and I'm feeling really, really good, and then all of a sudden the temperature drops, my energy drops, and then I can get in trouble. And there's been quite a few events that I've been involved with. I've been a volunteer for over 10 years now. Never walked a metre of it, by the way. But what I've discovered along the way is there's a lot of people that get hyperthermia as well as hypothermia on the one event.
Lovely, thank you. What percentage of groups sleep and for how long?
I'll just start there. With my experience at the checkpoints late at night, I tend to volunteer late at night, which actually is really exciting and dynamic and vibrant because there's a lot of energy around. My advice in terms of sleeping is that, and I know that Jeff's got a viewpoint on this, it can save some people, it can save some teams. What I will say is that often the strongest team member in training is not always going to be the strongest team member during the event. The weakest team member in training sometimes will end up being the strongest team member during the event. So we need to be aware of that. We need to make sure that we're looking after the weakest team member through the event. And that might mean that we'll need an extended period of rest, and that might even mean sleep. Now I know Jeff's got an opinion on this, because too much sleep can be kind of detrimental, because it's hard to regain that energy because the body goes into recovery mode rather than rest mode. So that's really important to get that balance right. Some people will say, some teams will just say, just push through, and that's fine for some teams, but it's not the same for everyone. So it's not an easy answer. It's just to sleep or not to sleep. Jeff?
Oh no, I think you pretty much covered that one.
Awesome, lovely. So this is a fundraising question, and this might be for you. Of the $2.5 million raised, how much gets provided as on-the-ground support?
Sure, so yeah, the $2.5 million that we're aiming to raise this year is a very fantastic target, and will go a long way to help people that are living in poverty around the world. One of the great things about Oxfam is we're really transparent about where your money goes, and so we have all of our annual reports and finance details on the website. But as a general rule, 67% of all of the money that is donated in a dollar, so 67 cents of the dollar, goes directly to the people that need it most, and then the rest of that money goes either to admin, and then the rest we invest back so that we can raise more money.
Thank you. Last question, and then we can conclude. And if we haven't read out your question, come and chat to us afterwards, or we will post all of the answers tomorrow. So lastly, what shoes are required for the walk, and can I do it without any training?
Jeff's probably got some ideas on footwear, but been involved with as a volunteer for many years, and I've seen some crazy footwear out there, from dress shoes, I've seen thongs, I've seen blundstones, and every type of hiking boot and runners in between. What I will say is that feet don't like the same thing the whole time, so changing it up is a really good thing. And be mindful of the trail surface as well. If it's at night and it's a rocky trail, then maybe more secure footwear, some hiking boots. But if it's light and flat, then some light runners is a good option. Anything that you do wear, make sure you wear it in. I've also seen some people with brand new hiking boots and wonder why they're getting blisters, so I think that's really important to take into account as well. And what was the last one? Should I do it?
Do it.
No training. Oh, hello.
Sorry, just on the shoes though, yeah, just try and get something that's supportive and cushioning to your foot. Like the thin shoes, the concrete you're going to walk on for the last 40 or so K is going to be very hard on your feet. So if you're wearing really thin soled shoes, that's going to push a lot of pressure into those feet. And I noticed a difference last year compared to the other years, and definitely spend some money, try them on, go and get them fitted properly, and don't just buy it because it looks good, and just give that the flick and make sure it fits and try it. If it doesn't work, get rid of it.
The one thing I can also say is that when you're choosing footwear, I've done a bit of research into this as well. Same thing with whether there's going to be success with orthotics as well. The one thing that they keep on coming back to is if it's comfortable when you try it on and walk in the shop, and if you can walk around a fair bit, that's one of the greatest indicators that the shoe is going to be the right type for you, is comfort. So that's important. And when we're being serious about training, one thing I will say as well is that training is the most important thing that you need to do. If we're thinking about injury prevention, the one thing that is really, really important is to get the body resilient and tolerant enough to be able to handle 100 Ks. Because as I said, it's not 10K walks. It's a long way, 2.5 marathons, so you've just got to understand that the body is not used to that. And then if you're going to increase your chance of having a successful outcome and finishing across the line, jumping in the air with your other 3 teammates, is put the time and effort in to do it properly and get the load into your body. But I can talk more about that on the 27th.
27th of November. Brilliant. Alrighty, well hopefully you've got a little bit more of an insight into Trailwalker. Hopefully you've enjoyed some free beer, tea, coffee and food. If you haven't already, please do. Also, remember that if you do register tonight, you get 4 free key cups for you and your team. So please, if you're going to do it, jump on board now, because that offer won't be available until after tonight. Thank you all so much for coming, and come and have a chat to us afterwards. Thank you.